Welcome back to our homeschooling series. I'm Debbie Jansen.
And I'm Amy Williams.
And we're here to help. Last time we were talking about what it would mean for you if you wanted to start homeschooling. And so today we're going to continue that conversation. And I have questions for Amy. You can go to my website on the contact page and leave us a question, or you can leave us a question in the comment section. And please subscribe to this video series if you want to homeschool or if you're thinking about it. So Amy, you are a talented teacher. I could just go on and on about the things you've done. In fact, in my head, I'm thinking about a young man you were an intervention specialist, and a young man who couldn't, a young boy, 7 years old in Arizona, the one you worked with. Yes. And he had been in a car accident and he couldn't do much of anything, and all the rest of the teachers said, well, he can't do that, just put him in his wheelchair over in the corner. And Amy said, no.
Well, so that is a great story. It's one of my favorites. He had traumatic brain injury. And that was my first year as in special education. And I had learned about traumatic brain injury in college, but to be totally honest, I didn't know what they should be able to do and shouldn't be able to do. And so what I discovered was most of the day, he was not being challenged. And so this was my first year. I was an assistant in a severe needs classroom.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that he was just in the corner. He was, because of his traumatic brain injury, he was aggressive. So he would get real frustrated and real irritated, and could be, like, he would kick people and could be kind of violent. So they kind of coaxed him to do his work, but if he didn't do his work, they just kind of, okay, we're going to give him a break.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of spoke up and said, let me try working with him. And so I kind of took him on and got him to where he would sit in his wheelchair and he would do his work with me. And I required that he said please and thank you.
Wow.
And at lunch, we would sit at lunch, and if he got irritated and would do stuff and wasn't being, using good manners or saying please and thank you, I would push his wheelchair back and require him to have manners and say please and thank you and that kind of thing. And then
Did he get upset at that?
He would get upset at that, but once he calmed down, then we would continue and we'd have conversations and we would talk about things. He loved soccer. So I use that, like I was saying, once you learn your kids, you can use different things to help them to learn. Yeah. So he loved soccer, and I talked to his mom and said, okay, I want to get him to do his work, but he wants to go play soccer. And I'm like, if I let him do it, he's going to get dirty. And she was like, whatever you got to do.
She just wanted him to progress.
Wanted him to do what he was supposed to. So I said, okay. So I would have him do his work during the day, and his reward was I would take him out to the big field in the back of the school, and he would get out of his wheelchair on the ground and kick the soccer ball.
Wow.
And there was one day the kids were going outside, and he wanted to ride a big wheel. Well, the type of traumatic brain injury that he had a really hard time pushing the pedals on the big wheel.
Yeah.
So I used that as an incentive. All right, if you get all your work done, we're going to go outside and we'll ride the big wheel. Well, as we were doing that, I would run behind him, and you know how a big wheel is, they kind of sit back and your knees kind of come up as you're riding a big wheel. Well, I would run behind him and I would push his knees to keep him going.
Oh my goodness.
And he learned how to ride a big wheel because of me doing that. So he would work really hard to get all of his work done so that we could go outside and ride the big wheel. Well, at the end of the year, he was riding the big wheel all by himself.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
The therapist came in and said, he shouldn't be able to do that. And I said,
it's amazing what the brain can do. Yeah, it's amazing what a brain can do if you give it, if you push it, and if you go a little bit farther.
Yes.
That is amazing.
So it's just another example of how when you know your kids and you know what motivates them and what they're interested in, you can push them to learn. And teachers in classrooms do that all the time, but when you're home with your kids doing homeschool, you have more opportunity.
If you haven't seen our first video, you might want to go back and review that, because what we're talking about here is how homeschooling gives you the opportunity to learn your child's traits and to play into that, right? Mm-hmm. You want to say a little bit about that to kind of pull it together for us?
So I think just in homeschooling, you're able to learn more about your kids. Just in helping them to grow in their education, knowing what their strengths are, you can use their strengths to...
Yeah. And you have to hear the story about Gracie and how she draws pictures with numbers. That's really cool. Okay. Homeschooling is intimidating to some mothers. After all, the mothers I've talked to, they say, what if I mess up? Then my kid is ruined for the rest of their life. Is that a worry about homeschooling, or are they really kind of taking it to the extreme?
I would not say they're taking it to the extreme. That is a valid question that I think any parent asks at any time in our time as parents. Like raising up children, we're constantly worried about, like, am what I'm doing, is it right? Am I helping my child?
For discipline,
for
or
anything.
For what they eat, or whatever.
Am I making sure they eat the right things? Am I making sure they're involved in the right activities? Am I making sure they're around the right kids? So it's a valid thing that we worry about as parents. So it makes 100% sense. I worried about it when I decided to homeschool my kids.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm doing the best for them.
Yeah.
And that they are raising up the best that they can be. Well, so the thing I would say to that, and the thing that I have said to that, is that you were entrusted with your children for a reason, because you know them the best. You want the best for them. So who better to teach them than you? Because you have the best interest for your kids in mind. No matter what happens, no matter what goes on, you have the best interests of them in mind.
So what you're saying is that because we love them so much, we're going to pay more attention to where they are and how they're doing, and if we are succeeding as homeschool mothers. And so that gives us even a little more advantage than the well-trained teacher in the classroom, because we see that child as the most important thing in the world.
Right. We love them more than anybody could possibly love them. And so we want them to do the best in everything. We strive, if we have them in baseball, we want to make sure that they're getting to all the practices, that they're doing all the work, that they're going to the batting cages on the weekends whenever they have time. So if you decide to homeschool your kids, you're not going to have any different feelings toward it. You're still going to be like, okay, I want to make sure that my kids learn the best, and so you are the best person to teach them because you have that feeling for your kids.
Okay, so let's take it one step further, because I had one parent ask me this. I was never good at math. What if I try to teach my child math and I get some of it wrong? How are they going to succeed with math then? Is there a way to go back and reteach things that kids didn't pick up? Is there a way to test for it? Or at the end of the year, if you're testing and, oh my gosh, this kid didn't get this, so now what do I do?
Yeah, there absolutely is. And we live in a great world right now where we have technology at our fingertips. It's on our phone. It's everywhere around us. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. Hello. It's on YouTube.
So you have probably the most resources at your fingertips that you could possibly ever have. So if you recognize that your student is struggling with, let's say, learning their multiplication facts, and you weren't very good at multiplication facts, and so you aren't sure how to help them, there's songs on YouTube. There's Khan Academy that you can go to.
There's what?
Khan Academy is online math, and it's free. There is an extra lessons that you can sign up for that you pay for, but you can actually go and say, I need multiplication help on Khan Academy, and you can pull up resources.
Okay. Spell that.
KHANACADAMEY.
Okay, because I was thinking CON Academy, and I was like, no, that can't be right.
So we can put a link in the comments.
We'll have to do that, yeah.
But I want to go back for just a second about the anxiety that parents may feel towards that. And it's a valid thing to have anxiety about, am I going to be able to teach them math? Am I going to be able to teach them all the things that they need to know? And there's a great book that I would love to recommend for those of you that are watching us today and you're considering this and you're feeling the same anxieties and you're not sure how to do that. There's a book, it's called Teaching from Rest. And it was a great book for me when I first started out. Even being a teacher, I had the same anxieties, like how do I do this? And she just talks about how we get through those anxieties and how to approach that. So I would really recommend that book. And again, we'll have a link in the comments. So if you're interested in that book, you can go to it's in the description. We'll have a link in the description so you can.
That's great. That's great. But this is a common thing about anything. I do parenting classes, and people have told me, I don't think I can have a child because I'm not sure I can parent right. And I say, well, first of all, there's no perfect parent, and there's no perfect child. I mean, we might think they are, but they're not.
There's no perfect teacher.
And there's no perfect student. And you just work through the anxieties and get on with the job you need to do, right?
Right. And there's so many resources available now that you can find a resource on the internet or a question on dictionary.com or Wikipedia, which I wouldn't recommend for most things, but a general. There's so many resources we have that you can find it at your fingertips.
And you can probably find a clown counting for you.
Right. Probably can.
Okay, let's take another question. Is it possible for a non-teacher to be successful at homeschooling their children? And this kind of goes back to the same thing. What if a parent wasn't that good at school? Can they still be good at homeschooling? And I think we just answered that.
Yes, absolutely, because you have such a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips.
Yeah.
So whatever you are not good at, someone out there is, and you can take advantage of those resources.
Okay, if you're still nervous, even after you've been listening to Amy and I, if you're still nervous, what can you tell the mom to do besides the book to kind of calm their fears about homeschooling?
So I would say a great thing to do is see if there are other homeschool moms in your area.
That's a great idea, yeah.
Because that has been a huge help to me. Like I said, when I was even thinking about homeschooling, people popped up everywhere. Like, wait, you homeschool? You homeschool? So I think that's a great resource just to connect because, we always feel empowered by our group. So if you have someone else that you can bounce questions off of, or hey, I was thinking of this, or what do you think about that? That's always helpful. And of course, you can leave comments here and we can answer them as much as possible, of course. But I think that would be a great resource. There are other things that you can connect to, which I'm blanking on for a second.
That's okay, because I was getting ready to jump in with what about your church or any social groups, that sometimes if you just share with them, okay, I'm doing this, even if the other person isn't doing it. I know what I would say to a parent who is homeschooling. Oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. Oh, that's so great. And sometimes when you have anxiety, really all you need is someone to put their arms around you, to pat you on the back, to say, oh, keep going, you're doing a great job, or I've noticed a difference in your child. Like grandparents, when you started homeschooling, I remember the first time I went in a store with Sophie, and she looked at a picture and she said, oh, that's a copy of Van Gogh. And I was like, what? Yeah, that's one of his paintings, Gammy. And I said, because I know art, but I didn't know that one. And I remember when I dropped him off later, Amy, I'm so proud of you. She knew a Van Gogh painting. And you told me you'd been teaching him some of that. Any kind of accolades that you can get, or people that can be encouraging and helpful, that's going to help you get through it.
Absolutely.
Right? Yep. Okay, let's see what else we got. Does the child need, well, first before I handle this question, let me tell you, please go to debbiejansen.com and leave a comment, or we will leave some of the printed materials on the website as well. But subscribe to this channel so you can get plenty more videos just like this one. Okay. Does my child need to be evaluated in order to determine if homeschooling will meet their needs?
No.
No.
They do not.
Okay.
So I would say if you're thinking about homeschooling, then first of all, I would say just do it.
So you heard that, guys. Just do it.
Right. But do they need to be evaluated to be homeschooled? No. So my recommendation, if you're asking like, where do I start my child, then I would say wherever they would typically be at in the school. So like if they're already in school and you're thinking about homeschooling them at home, I would start there. You can always go backwards if you need to.
So we're going to need you to explain that just a little bit. But if they ended the 2nd grade and you decide you want to homeschool, start them in the 3rd grade. And if you see that maybe wherever they were at did not get them up to par.
Or even if you just see like, hey, there's a couple of things that we're not quite ready yet. You can always back up. You can always go slower. You can always back up. You can always add extra things in. Okay,
so you aren't tied to a specific, I have to do this on this date.
No. And one thing that we say about homeschooling is that you're not really tied to the grade level. So,
okay, explain that.
So, because we're homeschooling, you are meeting your child's needs. So, if your child is in one area excelling more than what 4th grade would be, and you go up to 5th grade, let's say in reading, you can do that because you're homeschooling.
Oh.
If they're not excelling in math and they need some extra practice in some of those, let's say if they're in 4th grade, they need some extra practice in 3rd grade material, you can just add in 3rd grade material into your 4th grade curriculum or whatever you're doing for 4th grade. So you're not tied to the grade level that they're in. Do you see what I'm saying?
So with homeschooling, your kid doesn't fall in any holes.
Right.
They don't get left behind in anything, because if you discover in 3rd grade that they need more 1st grade math so that they can do 3rd grade math, you just go back and you reteach some of the 1st grade and pull them up to par.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
So just add it into your math work for the week.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I might say that, so my daughter is going into 5th grade, but as a homeschool mom, we say that loosely because we're not tied to a 5th grade. She will be in 5th grade as what everybody thinks of as 5th grade, but she might be doing 6th grade reading, and she might be doing some extra stuff that aren't even curriculum, like typical school type things. So like she's super interested in space. And so we have a science curriculum in our 5th grade, but she's over here doing stuff about space because she thinks it's super interesting. So you can tailor it to your kid. That's the thing I
Wow.
love about homeschool.
Well, that really speaks to me because one time I had to counsel, or I was counseling with a child who was falling behind in school. And I tried to talk to the school officials about, can't she do some extra classes? Can't she go back and sit in the first grade for this class so that we don't have to hold her back? And they said, no, we're going to hold her back. And that was very emotionally traumatic for her. And so to know that a homeschooling parent is not limited to any of that is phenomenal, because then it really you can boost your child's self-esteem that way.
Right. So on the other piece about being evaluated, I would also say they don't have to be evaluated. Each state is different in how they require homeschooling. So like we are in the state of Ohio. So the state of Ohio at the end of the year requires that either they're evaluated by a certified teacher, and the certified teacher signs off and says, yes, they are at the grade level that they should be at, and the teacher will go over all the work that we've done. And then the other option is that we take the standardized test. So my kids take a standardized test every year, just because being in special education, I'm used to the numbers and it's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
So we take those standardized tests, and then that's how we submit for the state of Ohio. And you can choose to do either one. So
Okay.
Last year, we got COVID in July. And the way we run our school years, we start in August, September, just like the schools do. So we usually start when the schools do, and we end somewhere around May. And that's all curriculum. So we do all curriculum through that time. And then I have discovered that my kids do better if we take a break from school and we do our testing in July. They just do better when they get the break.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's how we do it. So July is our time to do testing. And so last year we got COVID in July. And the way it ran through our household, we were down with COVID for the entire month of July. Well,
So what'd you do?
we didn't get testing done. So here comes end of July, we're all getting better, and I was the last one to have it after taking care of everybody. So when I finally got better and I went, oh my goodness, we have to turn in our stuff for next year, we just had a classroom teacher or a certified teacher sign off on our schoolwork.
Oh,
So
okay.
she looked over all of our curriculum from last year and everything that we had done and signed off saying, yes, Sophie and Gracie have completed their work for this year. So this is only the state of Ohio, and every state does it differently, and every state requires different things. So you'd have to look up for whatever your state requires. But
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick, and then this will probably be our last one on this session. But I think it's important to say that you want the state to be involved in those tests and stuff, because you don't just go off and homeschool and then nobody knows anything that you've done, because after you get them to the 12th grade, they have nothing to show an employer to say that, hey, I graduated from high school, right? Or they have nothing to show a college. So if you take these tests or get signed off by a teacher, then the state gives you a diploma, or how does that work?
no, it has, nope.
Okay, well, tell me how that works.
So it doesn't work at all like that. So
Okay.
the tests are only because in the state of Ohio, there are two options
Okay,
to report. So it's called reporting that we're homeschooling. So we report every year that I'm not going to put them into school. They are going to be homeschooled. So if anybody ever says, hey, those kids are staying home all day, why aren't they in school? Then I have the documentation to say, no, I've worked it all out and my kids are homeschooled.
okay,
So that is the only purpose for that.
okay.
When you start talking about high school and going on to college, there's a whole process for that.
Oh, okay, so it comes within the homeschooling process that they get their degree and that they can move forward.
Right.
Oh,
And there's-
okay.
there's
I didn't know that.
Yes. And most districts, there's opportunities for the kids to be involved in things at school that the
Really?
public schools would offer. Yes.
So
So
things
you
like
just-
what?
So like the big thing within the last couple of years when you get in high school is that you can go take college classes as part of your high school.
Yeah.
So that is offered to homeschool as well.
Wow. Oh, that's why our friend, we know a young lady who just graduated from high school with a 2-year college degree, and she was homeschooled the whole time. Now, you still have to go through the whole process to get accepted by the college, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's amazing. That's cool. Well, I have really enjoyed this session with you today, Amy, and we'll pick it up more next time with Debbie Jansen and
Amy Williams.
yes, on this homeschooling series. See you next time.